Welcome back, everyone, for another deep dive. This one is super interesting. It's about art and technology and healing.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. You guys sent in some research about using AI to recommend art.
Interesting.
Yeah, for therapy.
Okay.
Specifically for people recovering from post-intensive care syndrome.
PICS?
Yeah, PICS. And it affects a lot of people after they leave the ICU.
Right.
It can have some pretty long-lasting effects on your mind and body. But what's really fascinating is how this research suggests that art can play a role in recovery.
It really is a fascinating area.
Yeah.
What's important is that people understand that PICS is way more common than you think.
Really?
It can affect something like 75% of patients who've been in the ICU.
Wow. That's a lot.
It is a lot. It's not just physical, either, muscle weakness and memory problems and trouble concentrating, all that stuff.
Right.
It takes a big emotional toll, too.
Yeah, 75%, that's a huge number.
It is.
It makes sense that there would be a big psychological impact for people going through that. So what are we doing now to help those people with PICS?
Well, there are definitely interventions in place.
Okay.
Like clinics for specialized follow-up care and things called ICU diaries to help patients kind of process everything they went through.
Okay.
The problem is these solutions need widespread changes in healthcare systems.
Right.
Which,
Not easy.
not easy at all. And they often put more pressure on healthcare workers who are already,
Oh, yeah, they're overworked.
Yeah, exactly.
So it sounds like we definitely need more effective and accessible solutions.
For sure.
And this is where I'm curious to learn how art fits in here.
Yeah.
How can something like visual art help with something so complex as PICS?
Well, there's a good bit of research already showing that visual art can have a positive effect on patients in healthcare.
Okay.
Especially images of nature.
Interesting.
You can imagine hospitals aren't exactly the most relaxing places.
No.
But studies have shown that exposure to art, especially those calming nature scenes, can really help reduce stress and anxiety.
That makes sense when I think about the typical hospital environment.
Yeah.
Sterile, bright lights, the constant beeping.
Mm-hmm.
Not exactly a relaxing getaway.
No, not at all. And the impact goes beyond just feeling calmer, too.
Okay.
There's even a study from 1984 by Roger Ulrich that found that patients recovering from surgery healed faster when they had a window view of nature compared to those who didn't.
Wow. So just having a nice view can actually help you heal faster.
It seems that way.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
So I'm guessing we're not just talking about hanging up any old landscape painting in a hospital room then.
Well, it's not quite that simple, although that's definitely a good start.
Okay.
The key is making sure that the art resonates with the person on a personal level.
Right.
What one person finds calming, another might find boring or even upsetting.
I can see that.
So it's really not a one-size-fits-all approach.
Right.
We need to be thoughtful about what type of art is used. For example, abstract art, while it can be intriguing, has actually been shown to have negative effects on some patients, especially those who are already under a lot of stress.
That makes sense. You can't just throw up any random piece of art and expect miracles.
Exactly.
It needs to be carefully chosen to be helpful.
Right.
And this is where AI comes in.
Precisely. AI has the potential to personalize art recommendations and make sure that the art is actually beneficial for the individual.
So we're talking about AI that can suggest art for therapy.
Yeah.
How does that even work?
Well, what's fascinating about AI is that it can learn from both the image itself, by analyzing things like color, texture, and composition, but also from text descriptions that capture the deeper meaning of the art.
So it's like the AI is looking past just the way the painting looks.
Right.
And getting into what it's trying to say.
Exactly. It's trying to understand the themes, the emotions, the symbolism.
So the research you sent over mentioned they tested this with different types of AI. What did they find?
Well, they tested 4 different AI models. And the interesting thing is that the most successful model was the one that combined both visual and textual information.
Okay.
They called it BLIP.
BLIP.
Yeah. And it was able to factor in things like the painting's color palette and the emotions it evoked.
So they have these AI models ready to go, but how do they make sure that the AI was recommending art that would be helpful for patients and not harmful?
That's a great question. They did a clever thing before testing it on actual patients recovering from COVID-19.
Okay.
First, they worked with former patients to choose 3 sample paintings that consistently evoked feelings of calmness, restoration, and cheerfulness.
Right.
And then they got recommendations from both human art therapists and the AI based on these sample paintings.
So it's like setting a baseline for what kind of art they're going for.
Exactly.
But before they moved to patients, they wanted to make sure they weren't going to accidentally recommend something that could cause more harm than good.
Yeah, that's a really important step. You don't want someone in a vulnerable state exposed to art that could be triggering. So they ran a pilot study with healthcare professionals who ended up rejecting some of the recommendations from the AI models that focus solely on the text descriptions.
So the text-based AI wasn't quite ready.
Not quite. Some of the paintings they suggested had violence or darker themes that were just completely unsuitable for therapy.
Wow, that's a bit of a red flag.
It is. It really highlights why having that human oversight is so important.
For sure, especially when we're talking about something as sensitive as mental health.
Absolutely.
So the AI that was only analyzing the words wasn't ready for prime time, but what about BLP, the one that uses both images and text? Did that one pass the test?
Yes, it did. Both BLP and the AI model that focused just on the images got the green light from the healthcare professionals.
So it was time to see how they performed with actual patients.
Exactly.
All right, so the stage is set. We've got our AI art recommenders ready to go. They've passed the initial safety checks. What happened when they finally got to test this with real people?
Well, they put together a user study with 150 participants who had all been hospitalized. And some had even been in the ICU. So, these were people who had been through it.
Right.
They used these standard mood scales to track how people felt before and after the art therapy.
Okay.
And something called the Positive and Negative Affect Schedule, or PANAS. PANAS, yeah.
Okay, so they had a way to measure if the art was actually making a difference.
Exactly.
Did it work? Was the AI able to pick art that actually helped people feel better?
Here's the incredible part. It did. All three groups in the study, those who looked at the art chosen by the human art therapists, those who saw art recommended by the image-based AI, and those who got the BLIP recommendations, they all showed significant improvement in their mood after the art therapy.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
So the AI was just as effective as a human at picking out art that could boost people's moods.
Yeah, pretty much.
That's wild.
Yeah.
But did they just measure mood, or did they dig a little deeper to understand why the art was having a positive effect?
That's where it gets even more interesting. They didn't just rely on those mood scales. They also asked participants to write about their experience with the art. Oh, cool.
To really describe how they felt, what resonated with them.
So important going beyond just the numbers and getting into those personal stories.
Totally.
What were people saying about the art? Were there any common themes that emerged?
So when they analyzed all those written responses, they found that people were overwhelmingly positive about the art they saw, no matter what group they were in.
Okay.
But there was one interesting thing. The BLIP model, the one that used both image and text information, had zero negative feedback.
Wait, zero?
Zero. Not a single person had a bad experience with the art BLIP recommended.
That's incredible. So not only did it pick art that improved people's moods, but it also seemed to avoid anything that might be upsetting.
Right.
That's huge for BLIP.
It is. It really highlights the potential of this kind of AI.
Right.
By considering both the visual elements and the deeper meaning, BLIP was able to select pieces that were both aesthetically pleasing and emotionally supportive.
Because BLIP was able to connect with people on a deeper level. Yeah.
Finding art that really resonated with them. But what were some of the things people were writing about? What impact was the art having on them?
So they identified 7 key themes from all the reflections. Things like hope, rejuvenation, engagement, a sense of connection, safety, sensory pleasure, things like that.
Wow.
It's pretty amazing to see how art was tapping into those really deep psychological needs.
That is amazing.
Yeah.
It wasn't just about making people feel good in a superficial way.
Right.
It was about comfort, inspiration, connection, things that are so essential when you're recovering from a traumatic experience.
Absolutely.
Do you have any examples of what people were saying that illustrate those themes?
Yeah, definitely. One participant who saw a painting recommended by BLRE wrote, "I realize that my life can be normal again and that God can heal and calm my thoughts of worry."
Wow. That's powerful stuff just from looking at a painting.
I know, right? It sounds like the art gave them a sense of peace and possibility, something that's so hard to find when you're going through a tough time.
Did anyone else describe a similar experience?
Yeah, another participant talking about a different painting said, "The colors were so vivid that I could practically feel the warmth of the sun on my skin and the softness of the grass beneath my feet."
Wow, that's so evocative.
I know, right?
It sounds like they were transported to another place.
Totally.
A place of peace and beauty.
Exactly.
It really speaks to the power of art to transcend our circumstances.
It really does. And this is what's so exciting about this research. It shows that AI has the potential to make art therapy more accessible and personalized, and not just for people recovering from PICS.
Right.
but potentially for anyone struggling with their mental and emotional health.
This is mind-blowing.
Yeah.
The possibilities seem endless, but I imagine this is just the beginning, right? What's the next step in making this AI-powered art therapy a reality?
Well, think about it this way. What if instead of waiting till someone develops PICS, we could start using personalized art from the moment they're admitted to the ICU?
That's a brilliant idea. Using art as preventative medicine. So instead of waiting for people to get sick, we're creating an environment that supports their well-being from the start.
Right.
But we're not just talking about hanging up a few paintings in the ICU.
Right. No, not exactly. Think about interactive displays that adapt to each patient's needs.
Okay.
So that AI could analyze their vital signs, their facial expressions, even their medical history to figure out their emotional state.
So we're talking about an AI that can understand how someone is feeling.
Right.
And then choose art that would be most helpful in that moment.
Yeah, exactly. It's like having a personalized art therapist on call 247.
I love that. But this could go way beyond the ICU, right? Are there other healthcare settings where this could be beneficial?
Absolutely. Think about MRI rooms, which can be really stressful for people.
Yeah, definitely.
What if you could have calming images projected on the ceiling, helping people relax and get through the procedure?
Okay.
Or virtual windows and long-term care facilities, giving people a sense of the outside world.
Right.
The possibilities are really endless.
It feels like we're on the edge of a whole new era of healthcare.
It does.
Where art and technology work together to create a more human experience.
Yeah.
But I have to ask, are there any concerns about using AI in this way? I mean, it's still pretty new technology.
You raise a really important point, and it's crucial that we do this thoughtfully and ethically. AI can make mistakes.
Right.
Especially in a therapeutic setting where those mistakes could have negative consequences. That's why human oversight and really rigorous testing are essential.
You can't just let the AI run wild and assume it always knows best.
Definitely not.
We need that human element to make sure it's being used responsibly and effectively. So it sounds like the best approach is a collaboration between humans and AI.
Absolutely. I think the most successful applications of AI are going to involve a partnership between human experts and intelligent machines. AI can analyze data, identify patterns, make recommendations.
Right.
But it's the humans who ultimately need to make sure those recommendations are appropriate, safe, and aligned with the patient's needs.
It's like a system of checks and balances.
Exactly.
To make sure the technology is used to benefit everyone. And that collaboration is especially important when we're dealing with something as complex and personal as art.
I completely agree. Art is subjective. What moves one person might mean nothing to another. So we need human expertise for safety, but also to help interpret those recommendations and personalize them.
It sounds like the human touch, that intuition and empathy are still irreplaceable, even with all this amazing new technology.
They are.
But it's clear that AI has the potential to enhance and expand our ability to heal. It's like a new partner in the quest for well-being.
That's a great way to put it.
And as with any new partnership, it'll take time to build trust, to learn from each other and adapt.
Nah.
But I think there's a huge potential here for AI to completely change how we think about art and healing.
I agree.
This has been absolutely fascinating. I'm so excited to see where this research leads. But before we get too carried away with possibilities, let's step back and remind ourselves what this research really means. For people struggling with PICS, and maybe even for anyone who finds comfort in healing through art.
Right.
It really feels like this research opens a whole new world when we talk about art and healing.
It's pretty amazing.
It's like we're moving away from that one-size-fits-all approach to healthcare.
Yeah.
And really starting to understand that art can impact each of us in a really personal way.
That's what's so exciting about this technology.
Yeah.
It has the potential to move beyond those generic art experiences.
Right.
And create something that's truly tailored to the person.
Right. Their needs, their preferences, even their own story.
Exactly.
It's like the difference between buying a mass-produced print and commissioning a custom piece of art.
I like it.
That speaks to your soul.
Yeah.
I'm curious, though, about the practical side of things.
Sure.
How do we actually bring these personal art experiences to people? What would that look like?
That's a great question. First, we need to think about access.
Right.
Where will people find these AI recommendations? Would it be through an app or a website? Or maybe even a digital display in a hospital room.
Right. We need to make it user-friendly.
Absolutely.
And accessible no matter your tech skills.
Exactly.
What about the art itself?
Mm-hmm.
Will these systems pull from existing collections? Or could we see the creation of new art specifically for this purpose?
It's a fascinating thought.
Right.
I can definitely imagine AI creating art that's designed for very specific emotional responses.
So like a piece that's meant to make you feel calm or to
Exactly.
inspire joy.
It's really a fusion of science and art to create something healing.
We could have a whole new genre of art.
Right.
Art that's made for well-being.
We're already seeing it happening. There are artists and researchers exploring how to use AI to generate visuals and soundscapes that have very targeted effects on us.
That's incredible. Of course, we have to think about how we measure the impact of all of this.
Of course.
How do we know if it's truly making a difference in people's lives?
Yeah.
This study had some amazing results, but we need more research, right?
For sure. We need to move beyond self-reported data
Right.
and look at objective things like changes in stress hormones, sleep patterns, even pain perception.
Right. So we need more evidence that this is valuable, not just for individuals, but for healthcare systems and society as a whole.
Exactly.
It's a big task, but the potential is really amazing. This research gives us a real peek at what's possible when we bring art and technology together.
I think so.
As we wrap up this deep dive, I want to leave our listeners with a final question to think about. What role could AI play in helping you discover art that speaks to you? Art that helps you deal with life's challenges.
Yeah.
Art that brings you comfort and inspiration and joy.
It's a question worth thinking about. As we move into this new age of AI, I hope everyone embraces the possibilities.
Yes.
Explore the intersection of art technology and healing.
Yeah.
Might be really surprised by what you find.
Thank you so much for joining us on this journey. We'll see you next time for another deep dive into the world of ideas and discoveries.
Yeah.
Until then, stay curious.